Hails, inner warriors. Alex from Inner War Strength here. Today, I wanted to have a little bit of a ramble about what inner war means. But before we get into that, check out this absolutely killer Iron Dissident tee in white. Look at that. The colors just pop off the shirt there. It looks even better in person. Get it only from innerwarstrength.co. Link in the description. So, what is inner war? Why did I end up calling this project Inner War Strength? Well, let's unpack a few things first. So, number one, uh, the words themselves, okay? Inner war. What does that mean? Okay, so obviously, inner connotes an internal state of being, like a psychological thing or a spiritual thing or something that's, kind of subjective, let's say, something that's um, down to the internal state of the individual, right? And obviously, the word war connotes conflict. Okay. So, one thing that inner war doesn't mean is a state of inner conflict, in the words of the mighty carnivore, where you're kind of in a state of turmoil, right? Or there's like an inner tumult, like you're kind of torn between different positions. You're torn between going this way or that way. Um, there's like a sense of instability there, all right, in that sense. But that's not what I mean by inner war. What we mean by inner war is something very specific. So essentially, what inner war is, it means going to war against the part of yourself that wants you to be weak. Okay. Now, what do you mean? Why would I want to be weak? What part of myself would want me to be weak? Well, as human beings, we are kind of wired to take the path of least resistance. Now, what do I mean by that? I mean, we will prefer to choose what is easy over what is hard, okay, or or what isn't necessary. So how that kind of pans out is, and there are very good reasons for that, right? From an evolutionary perspective, right? You know, it's about avoiding confrontation with things that may kill you, right? It's avoiding hurting yourself, avoiding, like, if you see like a big rock that you have to climb over in order to reach whatever, a tree or something that has some fruit that you need to eat to survive, or maybe there's an animal there that you need to kill um, in order to survive. It's there's a risk assessment going on there, right, in your head. You're like, weighing up the pros and cons and kind of figuring out what the risks are. So there's a good reason why human beings are kind of hardwired for to seek comfort, right? And I think, for the most part, I think, most animals, most organisms are kind of hardwired that way, right? So, in a way, we prefer comfort over discomfort, right? It's just simple. It's simple as that. It's just kind of simple pain avoidance and, harm avoidance. So there's obviously a benefit to that, right? But there's also something else that we can kind of look beyond this very kind of base, biological perspective, right? So, inner war. What is inner war all about? It's all about, like I said, going to war against the part of yourself that wants you to be weak, that wants you to be comfortable. And the way that manifests in life is in many different ways, right? But the most obvious one is in training. Okay, so obviously, in the context of training, um, you naturally want to avoid physical discomfort. And training and lifting heavy weights is by no means a comfortable thing to do. Okay. It requires a lot of energy, it requires a lot of hard work, it requires a lot of discipline and diligence. And none of these things are easy. Okay. Strength training might be simple, in some cases, but it's not easy. It's hard getting under the bar with some heavy fucking weights and squatting down and standing back up. It's hard. It's not easy, right? If it was easy, everyone could do it. But I digress. So in the training context, I mean, it means choosing to do the hard thing over the easy thing. Okay, so it means choosing to lift the heavy weights over, doing 20 minutes on the treadmill or fucking, you know, doing really light weights in the preacher curl machine. Okay, because those aren't going to get you results. You know, hard effort is going to get you results. And it's quite funny because as in the gym, so as in life, hard work will get you results, whereas taking shortcuts and taking the easy way out most often, more often than not, will not get you, good results. So inner war isn't just about choosing the difficult path for its own sake. Although, there is something to be said about having like an ascetic lifestyle or living kind of like an ascetic, like a monk, let's say. Okay, there is something to be said for that, but it's not about just, choosing the hard thing for its own sake. It's about choosing the hard thing in pursuit of a goal. Okay, and being willing to do the hard thing in order to serve that goal, in order to achieve that goal. And there's always going to be a part of yourself that would rather avoid that, would rather avoid difficulty, rather avoid stress and strife, and just, would rather you did something else, would rather you just didn't do anything at all, maybe. I can't tell you how many times I've been in the gym and I was either maybe doing some heavy some heavy squats or whatever, or even some conditioning work, and the number of times I wanted to quit mid set or whatever are innumerable. Okay, but I never did. I've never quit a set. Okay, I may have failed. I've failed many sets. All right, many reps, but I've never actually quit because I didn't want to do it. Um, Even though there was a part of me that wanted to quit. An inner war is basically just about denying that part of yourself, denying it power over you, denying it power over your will, and choosing instead to do what you have to do what you should be doing, what you know deep inside your bones that you should be doing, instead of following that little inner bitch inside you that wants you to quit, that wants you to give up, because it wants you to be comfortable. It doesn't want you to suffer. Okay. But not avoiding suffering and avoiding stress, all of these things, you might be comfortable, but that's not where greatness lies, right? That's not where transformation happens. Transformation happens in moments of extreme stress, in moments of strife, right? Um, in moments of extreme turmoil is where you can kind of understand um, something about yourself. Okay, this is why I believe suffering is a conduit to self-discovery, because when you suffer, that's when you discover something about yourself. That's when you discover something new about yourself that you didn't know before. Okay, and I'll give you another analogy that's gym related. Okay, um, every time you do a heavy set of squats that you've never done before, okay, or a heavy bench press or a heavy deadlift or whatever it is, okay, you do the first rep, you go down at the hole, you come back up, you do another one, you do the third one. By the third one, your eyesight start to come a little fuzzy. You're like, ooh, Okay, it's starting to get a little tough now. You go down into the hole for the fourth one. You come up real slow. By that time, you're starting to see stars. Maybe you're a little dizzy. Your breathing's real heavy. And that bar just weighs twice as much as it did when you unracked it. And you really don't want to do that last rep. Okay? But the program is the program. It said to do 5. You've done 4. So that means you got one more. So you squat down to the hole and you grind out that last rep and you set it back into the rack. And that moment, you realize something about yourself. You learn something about yourself. You learned that despite the fact that you did not know you could accomplish what you did, you accomplished it. You didn't know if you were going to make that last rep, but you did. You tried anyway. Let's say you fail that final rep. So what? You still tried. So inner war isn't necessarily about the outcome. It's about the mindset. It's about the attitude. It's about being willing to at least try to overcome that difficulty. And if you fail, you fail. Fine. That's fine. That's part of the game. But at least you tried. And next time you try, who knows? Maybe you won't fail. So, again, inner war is all about overcoming yourself. It's about being willing to confront the obstacles in front of you, to confront the difficulties in front of you that life will inevitably throw at you, right? Because life is tough, man, right? Life is full of challenges, it's full of obstacles. It doesn't matter what walk of life you come from, life is full of challenges. And inner war is all about having the fortitude and the determination to confront those challenges and to overcome those challenges. Once once you've experienced this overcoming, right? And this is why I place such a great emphasis on the strength training as a transformative process, because in my experience, it's been completely transformative. Okay. Um, Day in, day out, you do the hard thing, right? You you squat down to the hole. You didn't know you were going to come up, but in the end, you did. All right. Maybe sometimes you don't, but it is what it is. At least you tried, like I said. But doing this day in, day out, all right, going through this process of trying to overcome the obstacle and overcoming an obstacle, setting a new PR week in, week out, month in, month out, quarter, a year, whatever it is, every 2 years. It's a constant process. And you learn that by trying, I can actually succeed. And you learn that the obstacles, all right, and in this case, the obstacles would be the weight on the bar, are essentially, they just become part of the terrain. You know what I mean? They just become, it's part of your training, right? Setting a new PR every so often it's part of your training. It's what you should be doing. Okay. And when you have that idea kind of firmly, um, not just planted in your head, but it just becomes part of who you are because you're training, um, you start to look at life kind of in those terms, right? Every obstacle just becomes, like another number on the bar, let's say. Every obstacle in life just becomes part of the terrain that you need to navigate towards greatness, right? So, as in life, as in the gym, such as in life, there is progressive overload, right? So, you know, everyone wants to improve their life situation. Everyone wants to make more money. Everyone wants to have a better lifestyle. Everyone wants to be healthier, or at least, you should, right? Um, Inner war is essentially that is essentially the kind of progressive overload approach to life, right? So not giving up when the chips are down, when times are tough, when there's a problem that needs to be solved, and having the fortitude and the balls to keep going, because you become comfortable with discomfort and comfortable with uncertainty. Because I got to tell you, man, in that last rep, when the bar is on your shoulders and you are seeing stars, you can smell blood, your eyesight's a little blurry, you're a little dizzy, and you don't know if you're going to make it, right? You don't even know if you're going to survive that last rep, right? But you go for it anyway. You step into the void. You step across the threshold. You open the door to uncertainty, and you come out of it stronger, and you benefit from that. You benefited from confronting uncertainty and coming out on top, right? So life is full of uncertainty, especially these days. No one knows what's coming around the corner next, right? We live in very volatile times, but at least being comfortable with the fact that many things are out of your control and there are some things that are uncertain, but no matter what happens, you'll roll with the punches and you'll come out on top. That's what inner war is all about. And that's why we are at war against atrophy, especially in this modern age, in the dork age, as I like to call it, where the zeitgeist of our time is pretty much the opposite, right? Um, you know, uh, we live in a very materialistic zeitgeist, in one that places emphasis on appearance and how much you own, what kind of things you own. You're defined by your stuff, um, and not by your achievements or you know how much you've had to overcome in life. So we stand in diametric opposition to the dork age in that regards. Okay, so that's what inner war is all about. Um, Let me know what you think. Leave a comment below. Like and subscribe if you like this video. Share it with a friend, and I'll catch you in the next one. Later.